Hello, everyone, and welcome to another YouTube live from Learning. And in this session, we'll work on the agreement and disagreement essays. But before I move on, I would request all of you to kindly like, share, and subscribe to the Learning platform for more such videos. So recently, according to some of the viewers, we will try to come up with more listening YouTube sessions, live sessions, listening, reading. We try to give you some important tips and tricks in the next week. So join us for more live sessions at 7 p.m. Now, let's begin with the agreement-disagreement essays. So before we move on with this, so far we've worked on the advantage-disadvantage essays, the discussion essay, problem and solution was also covered, and today we'll work on agreement and disagreement essays. The word in itself describes it well, that whether you agree or disagree with a given point, with a given perspective. So how should we structure our answer? How well should we write the response to score 8 to 9 bands? Let's understand that. But before we move on to the scores, it is important to remember and follow the criteria for assessment. Now, as you know, today we are working on the agreement-disagreement essays. So what should be the criteria? Now, when we talk about whether you agree or disagree with something, right? Sometimes the students make a lot of mistakes related to the parameters. What type of mistakes? Let's understand that. Now, when I talk about task response, you need to make sure that when you write any essay, it should be above 250 words. Right? So what is the target length? The target length should be roughly around 270 to 290 words. We can go up to 300, but please do not invest more than 300 word time slot, because in that case, you'll waste a lot of your valuable time and you will not get time to correct your answer. That is something on which I always insist in every video, that spend the last 5 minutes to check your answer on the basis of these 4 parameters, right? Then cover all the requirements. Now, when we talk about the requirements, it's imperative to understand the requirements first, isn't it? If they say, do you agree or disagree with a given point? Now, if I completely agree with that point, I must cover or, give at least 2 paragraphs, 2 body paragraphs on it. If I completely disagree with something, I must give 2 body paragraphs on disagreement. If it is a partial view, then maybe I believe something in agreement, something in disagreement, then the partial view should also be clear, right? Now, if we are not answering the response, or we are not answering the questions on the given parameters, then we are going wrong somewhere. Then, of course, the minimum word length, that's extremely important to us. Present a fully developed position in your answer. So when we talk about the developed structure for a question, that majorly stands for the introduction, body para 1. Maybe I agree with something completely, right? So I'll give this paragraph on agreement with an example, right? Maybe I completely disagree, or maybe, as I said, I completely agree with a point. So now my body para 2 should also talk about agreement with an example, right? And then, of course, the conclusion. We need this paragraph structure. Guys, if we are not following the correct paragraph structure, you are going incorrect with the basic skeleton of your essay. And if the basic skeleton is wrong, automatically the body can never be correct, right? Then coherence and cohesion. Now, when we talk about the coherence and cohesion, this basically stands for the logical flow in your answer. How do we have the logic? So, in the introduction, if I completely agree with the given topic, but by writing it, I am giving a contradiction. I am contradicting myself. That is the place where we go incorrect. In fact, our examples should also support the idea. It should not happen that a body paragraph which talks about the agreement on a given point that gives an example as if I disagree on it, right? Automatically, the flow is incorrect. There is a mistake, right? And of course, we need to organize the information in paragraphs, right? So here comes the paragraph structure. Use cohesive devices. Of course, we must use linkers. However, on the contrary, conversely, right? On the other hand, or if something is similar in nature, then similarly, likewise, moreover, also, isn't it we always discuss these? After this, when we talk about the lexical resource, it's quite evident that lexical resource is something which I always say that we should not be repetitive when we write something, especially the words. Like instead of using the same words again and again, children should listen to their parents. I completely agree that children should obey all the rules and regulations which the parents have for them. Parents should guide their children always. Why to use the words again? Why to repeat the words again? In fact, we can use words such as progeny, wards, juvenile. Instead of parents, we can use guardians, right? Caretakers. We can use such words. Isn't it? They are all synonymous in nature. So we can use these words to replace the same repetitive words, especially when it comes to, let's say, somebody's home or residence. So instead of saying my house, my home, we can use residence, accommodation. Some people even call it haven. You may, right? But first you have to address it as a house. Then you can call it a haven, right? So the use of alternate vocabulary, the use of collocations or phrasal verbs, that is what we recommend. Please remember, we will avoid idiomatic expressions because idioms are not the original way of writing or addressing something. So using collocations or phrasal verbs is a big plus point. Right? And then when we talk about grammar, of course, the use of complex sentences, compound sentences, that is highly recommended. Because if we have one complex and one compound sentence in every paragraph in our essays, we can easily get a good score. We can score at least a 7 or 7 plus when it comes to grammar. Only I'm talking about grammar, right? Of course, the spellings have to be correct. Your punctuation marks also need to be correct. So if we take care of all these things, we can definitely score high for grammar, right? Now, let's move on and have a look at the structure. So because we are discussing the structure for an agreement-disagreement question. So if you agree or disagree with something, right, you need to be very clear in the first place. And when we write down the introduction, we will try to paraphrase the question topic. And after that, your thesis should clearly specify, do you agree or disagree with a given point? Here I can mention, I concur. This is also an alternate way of mentioning something. I concur with the given statement, right? And then I give a short reason for that. Or I can say, I agree the given notion, right? And then we talk about it further. Or I disagree with the given statement, right? So that's how we can, present our view in the thesis statement, and it is mandatory. We cannot just simply paraphrase and leave it there. Some students even prefer to write statements such as the following essay. Let me show it to you. Some students, they even write following essay will present my idea on so and so thing. So this is the most inappropriate and incorrect way of giving a thesis statement. Please, we never ever do this, right? We should never do this. We should give a clear statement, a clear thesis. I agree with a given point. I disagree with it. I concur with it. I also opine on the same note. So your observation on agreement, disagreement, or even a partial view has to be clear in the introduction thesis, right? After this, we move on to the body paragraphs. Now, when it comes to the body paragraphs, we always stick to a 2-body paragraph structure for an agreement-disagreement question. If I completely agree with something, right, I will write down 2-body paragraphs on agreement. So, complete agreement, 2-body para. Then if I have complete disagreement, can also happen, 2-body para. And if I have a partial view, sometimes they say, do you agree or disagree? And some students, they even ask me that, ma'am, what if I have a 50-50% view on something? Then you can give one. So in case of partial, let me write it like this. Partial view, 1 body para on agreement, and 1 body para on disagreement. And then you will come to the conclusion. Clear? So these are the 3 ways how we can handle it, how we can, present our view, our opinion. But if you ask me personally, I generally recommend the students to stick to one side. Whenever they say, do you agree or disagree, right? It's always safe because we always run short of time. So if you are stuck to one side, the reasoning becomes easier for you, right? Now, when we write a body paragraph, it must include the topic sentence. I agree with it because of so-and-so reasons. Extended explanation and detail is important. And then we must give an example. Students who do not give an example in their body paragraphs lose at least 1 band on the basis of coherence and cohesion if your body paragraph is without an example. So examples give a major boost to your body paragraphs. Then conclusion. When we give the conclusion paragraph, what are we going to do? We'll just try to give the paraphrasing of the question topic And then the reasoning that we have elaborated in the body paragraphs, that has to be given as a gist at the end, right? No new ideas to be included in the conclusion paragraph. Please remember this. We never give any new ideas that, okay, by writing the conclusion, ma'am, all of a sudden I had a new idea, so I included it there. No, we can't do that. Please stick to the structure, stick to the original ideas that you introduced in the introduction paragraph's thesis statement. Right? Now, after this, let's have a look at the question. So you should spend 40 minutes on the task. And when you write your task, we'll come to the time management also, because that is extremely important when we write down an essay. So let's read the topic first. It's better to be unemployed rather than to be employed in a company that one does not enjoy. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Now, when I look at the topic, first thing I need to understand is that what is the meaning behind this topic. So it basically means that, some people think that it is better that you are unemployed, you are without a job, rather than if you have to work for a company where you do not enjoy that working environment, or maybe you are not fond of the kind of role you are handling in that company. Well, if you ask me, I would definitely disagree with this, because I believe that employment is important, isn't it? How will you pay your bills? How will you live? What will you do for your livelihood? Right? There's so many questions. So what will I do? Now comes the time management. We are going to spend only 40 minutes on this essay. So we spend the initial 5 minutes on content generation. Right? And when I generate content, I will make my notes, prepare your notes. Like if I say that I completely disagree with this idea, why am I disagreeing? Because I personally feel that how will I manage my everyday life? Right? I need money for my own expenses. How will I exist? Secondly, if I think that, okay, when I'll find my job of my choice only, then I will work, what am I doing as a citizen of a country? I'm going to add to the unemployed section of people, right? So that will also affect the economic status of a country. We are all small contributors towards it, but that makes a difference, right? So these are the two major points that come into my mind. And I prepare my notes on the question paper itself. Maybe if you're planning a CBT, you can type it on the screen and then later delete it. After this, now, when I am clear what I'm going to express, maybe come up with some examples also, then I will start writing the essay. So please remember, your writing part should begin only after content generation, and you are not going to spend more than 5 minutes on content generation. So then start writing your answer. So write your response in 25 to 30 minutes. That's more than enough, right? And once we are done with this, spend the last 5 minutes or 10 minutes, as much time you'll save, to correct your response. Grammatically, of course, when we check it, check your grammar, right? Check your spellings. Then, of course, the punctuations and the content. Have you answered every element asked in the statement, right? So, check the response status. So guys, if we try to spend our time in this structured way, you can definitely write a good response within 40 minutes and get your desired score. After this, now let's understand, when we look at the question, of course, we can see that this is what the statement means, that it is better to be unemployed, right? So some people believe that it is better to be unemployed in a way rather than working for a company where you do not enjoy your work. This is what they're trying to say. I completely disagree with it. So my thought, my view is clear that I do not concur with the given statement, right? So how should we present our idea? So my disagreement is clear, and I know that now I am going to write 2 body para on disagreement, right? I know this much. Now, let's move on to the introduction. So as we know that introduction is nothing new, but paraphrasing of the question statement and introduction of your ideas, which is the thesis. While some argue that it is better to be jobless rather than to have a dissatisfying job, I disagree with this viewpoint, as being without a job can threaten an individual's financial stability, as well as hinder the country's economic progress. So these were the 2 ideas which I mentioned, correct? And if I look at this individual's financial status, right, this is going to come, I'm going to elaborate this idea in body para 1, right? And then about the economic process, I will elaborate this point in body para 2. Simple and easy to understand, right? After this, now when I move on to the body paragraph, I need to make sure that I do not contradict myself anywhere. So you have to think on the correct track. Now, the first body para says, to begin with, being unemployed can have adverse financial and psychological effects, as people may struggle to make ends meet, pay bills, and provide for their families. For instance, being out of work for an extended period of time can lead to feelings of low self-worth, depression, and anxiety. Additionally, unemployment often means a loss of income, which can lead to financial difficulties and even poverty in some cases. Moreover, even if one does not enjoy one's job, one may still gain valuable skills and experience that could benefit one in the future. Therefore, having a job, even if it is not one's ideal job, can at least help individuals achieve financial stability, right? This paragraph is a complete disagreement paragraph. Why I disagree with the view of not working, right? Everyone should work. So I've supported my idea, and in this particular idea, I talked about making ends meet, pay one's bill, the original idea that I introduced, correct? And then I supported it with an example. I even talked about low self-esteem and depression because I'm elaborating the same point, right? Then we come to another paragraph, the second body paragraph, which will again discuss the disagreement. So, furthermore, high unemployment rates can hinder a country's long-term economic growth by reducing its human capital, innovation, productivity, and essential skills. To state this, during the COVID-19 pandemic, unemployed individuals were unwilling to work in the hospitality industry, which created labor shortages, hindered economic progress, and led to long-term negative effects on society and the economy. Thus, working in industries that may not be fulfilling at least lead to overall economic stability, right? So my second point was economic stability of a country. So I have stuck to the same points that I mentioned in my thesis originally, and then I tried to elaborate in two separate body paragraphs. After this, now let's have a look at the complete essay in a single go. So the first paragraph is the introduction. Where we tried to paraphrase the topic, and we have given our thesis, our view. After this, we come to the first body paragraph, which talks about disagreement with example, right? The second paragraph also talks about disagreement with an example. Then we come to the conclusion paragraph, right? Now, when we are concluding, again, we're not going to introduce any new idea. So in conclusion, while it is understandable to want to work in a job that one enjoys, being unemployed is not a viable alternative. Having a job, even one that is not ideal, provides a range of benefits that cannot be obtained by being out of work. Therefore, I strongly disagree with the notion that being unemployed is preferable to being in a job that one does not enjoy. Right? So I hope this view is clear to all of you. How should we try and handle an agreement-disagreement question? Right? So after this, always remember that when you answer any task, what are the points to be kept in mind? Understand what has been asked in the essay question. And please remember, you will always stay on track if you do content generation. So content generation is extremely important to keep yourself on track, right? You will never deviate from the main topic if you try to generate content in the first place. After this, you should always plan your essay before you write it. Obviously, content generation is going to help you with that. Then collect all the points you would like to include in your essay. Now, sometimes what happens is that when we are generating content, there's a lot of content that we have, and we cannot put all the content there. When it comes to the paragraphs, try to give only one idea, one point in each body paragraph. If there is, an essay where you think you are running short of length, you can add more examples. You can add another part of the reasoning in there just to elaborate it a bit, right? Then use a mix of simple and complex sentences. So this is mandatory, right? If we want to get our desired score for grammar, we need the simple and complex sentences. At least one complex sentence in each body paragraph. Use transition words, the use of linkers. Take care of grammar pitfalls, right? Be careful about parallelism. Sometimes students forget to follow the parallel structure while writing any sentence. Some say, I like to play in the park rather than going out in the evening. So when your first verb was play, how can you put going, right? Rather than to go out for a movie, or, the verb has to be on a parallel note. Then use low frequency words in between to show your ability. Now, we cannot be a dictionary, right? We should have a mix of vocabulary. We try to follow middle to high vocabulary level. Of course, we will not use low vocabulary words such as kids. We try to avoid it to a very great extent. But if you do not find any other word, you may use it once. Then use examples from your personal life to support your argument. Now, when this point comes, I generally tell the students to generalize examples. Of course, we are taking examples from our own reference, from our own life experiences, but we need to generalize them, right? We cannot say, my uncle, he used to own a shop and during the pandemic, he had to close it. No. Many shopkeepers had to shut down their businesses during the pandemic due to lack of footfall in their shops, right? So we need to generalize it like this. Then write short sentences. Of course, do not write excessively long sentences because then you are bound to make more grammatical errors. Link your points to make the essay more cohesive. So there should be a link, there should be a logic, a flow in your answer, and do not repeat your points, right? Never repeat your points. Try to generate new ideas and support it with different examples. So for more such sessions, please join the YouTube channel of Learning. We are here to help the students, and we have interactive sessions and classes. And it's not just about IELTS, it's about TOEFL, Duolingo, even for interview preparations. If you want any help regarding any English requirement, we are there. So you just have to knock on the door. So that's all for today. Have a wonderful weekend. Enjoy your evening, guys. Bye-bye.